giving a non-manual speech, 6 to 8 minutes in length, titled Mike's Story. This speech is dedicated to the memory of Doris Atkinson, who lived from 1933 until 2015. She lost 5 sons and a granddaughter. I present Greg Miller.
This is good. You can all see, right? Fritz von Erich founded World Class Championship Wrestling. This Dallas-based professional wrestling territory was the hottest regional territory of professional wrestling in America during the mid-1980s. He featured his 5 younger sons to be the stars of that promotion. They were, in order of age, Kevin, David, Kerry, Mike, and Chris. Fritz and his wife Doris had 6 sons total. The oldest one, Jackie Jr., died in a freak accident when he was only 7 years old. You cannot blame Fritz for that. However, with the other 4 sons, only one, Kevin, is still alive. The youngest 3, Kerry, Mike, and Chris, all committed suicide. Mike's suicide was the saddest of them all, and it was the one that could have been prevented. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, tonight I would like to tell you Mike's story. Switch slides. Mike's older brothers who did make it into the business, Kevin, David, and Kerry, were naturals to be baby faces or good guys in professional wrestling. They were all good-looking, they were all phenomenal athletes, they could have excelled in any sport, and they were all oozing with that certain intangible quality called charisma. But not Mike. He was different from his brothers. He was smaller than them. He was not a natural athlete. And he was painfully shy. If you ever watch a promo or interview of him before a wrestling match, he elucidated so poorly, it was almost comical to watch. The saddest part of it all, though, was that he didn't want to be a professional wrestler. His father made him do it. Mike loved playing guitar. He might have succeeded as a professional musician. I don't know if he had what it took to do that. But if he didn't, he could have done something else for a living. If he had done anything else, even if he was the guy who scraped dead animals off the side of the road, he'd still be with us today. Now, they could have made him a star in spite of his limitations. They could have portrayed him as a poor kid who may not be able to measure up to his older brothers, but he's trying his hardest. Sure, he might have lost this match, but he gave it his all. But he's getting better. Maybe next time he'll win. Buy a ticket and find out. They might have been able to go a long way with that sympathy angle, but the promoters did not do it. Instead, they tried to push Mike as being the next young stud of the Von Erich family who routinely defeated wrestlers who were larger than him, stronger than him, and more experienced than him, and the fans did not buy it. I was in high school at this time, and I didn't buy it either. But Mike's career did not last for very long. He debuted in 1983. In 1985, he was on a tour in Israel, and he suffered a shoulder injury. Had he gotten shoulder surgery right then and there, he probably would have been fine. Instead, he flew back to the States, where he went through rehabilitation. That did not work. So finally, in June of that year, he did get that surgery, but something happened. He got a 107-degree fever 4 days later. That fever turned into toxic shock and he nearly died. I don't want to sound incompassionate, but an early death would have been the best thing that could have happened to Mike. He suffered brain damage, and he was never the same. His father pressured him to return to the ring a year later. I do not understand how they could have even made the pretense of making a professional wrestler at this point. He was hopelessly skinny, he had a nasty scar on his right shoulder, and he was barely coherent. But it was even worse behind the camera. In later interviews, his sole surviving brother Kevin and several personalities affiliated with World Class Championship Wrestling said that he could not perform basic cognitive tasks. He had a poor sense of balance, and he acted out in very inappropriate manners. He got mixed up with drugs. Clearly, his life was in a downward spiral. He did get in trouble with the law a couple of times. This once shy but likable individual was becoming some sort of delinquent. If he had not entered the wrestling business, which he didn't want to do, none of it would have happened. Then, in April of 1987, he got pulled over for DUI. The cops found a bag of marijuana on him. Mike was absolutely devastated at this point. He had seen that he had hit rock bottom. He knew that he embarrassed the family, who had already suffered so many more tragedies. He knew he had no hope. He knew he could not take it any longer. So he wrote a suicide note. He took some Placadel, which is a drug. He mixed it with alcohol. He entered a sleeping bag. And at the tender age of 23, he left this world. It didn't have to happen. I could not imagine any family suffering in the way that the Adkisson family suffered. But if there was any one lesson to be learned from this, it's that if any of you are parents, or if you ever plan on being parents, do not put pressure on your child to follow your footsteps. And if your child does not measure up to your level of expectation, don't be too hard on them, because you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea what you might do to your child with your best of intentions.